Hello again. I thought I'd just do a quick little video. I came across this kit in a box full of other kits earlier today, and it's got a little bit of significance for me, really, which I'll go into in a minute. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's the Moebius kit of the Colonial one from the newer Galactica series. And small confession to make here: I've never actually seen a full episode of the new Battlestar Galactica. I think at the time it was on, I was doing other things, and I've seen odd clips of it here and there, but I've never actually sort of got into watching the whole thing from start to finish. So I do like the vehicles in it, but it's not something I could sort of tell you a lot about. I suppose I should really catch up with it at some point. But the reason this is significant to me is that I used to write for a now defunct magazine in the UK called Sci-Fi and Fantasy Modeler. And at the time, Moebius they'd been going a couple of years. It was when Frank Winsper was still in charge there. He founded it, and they were producing kits at a fair rate, really. And so as the kits were coming out, they were sending test shots of the kits to the magazine, and various writers in the magazine were building the test shots for review. So in a sense, we were getting the kits before they hit certainly the UK market, quite often before they hit the US market as well. And so this particular kit, this is how it was eventually packaged. However, I was sent the kit just as a test shot. Now, obviously, this is the test shot, which I'll switch cameras, and you can take a sort of closer look at it. And this is the one that was built for the magazine. And at the time, the kit just arrived. It was just a bag of plastic parts. Some of them weren't even on the sprue. I think they'd taken them off to sort of examine them to check that the parts were correctly molded. And there were no instructions. There was no assembly instructions, no painting instructions. There was no decals with it. All I had to go on were the few photographs that I could find on the internet in terms of the color scheme and painting it. And so it was fairly simple to put together for the magazine. The challenge was doing the painting, because the kit was eventually released with some of this pinstriping included, which I didn't have, so everything had to be painted. And let me just move that in a little bit closer. The detail on it is fantastic. It's a really, really nice kit. But some of the paint was pure conjecture on my part, having not seen the TV show and not actually sort of had much exposure to it. I just had to sort of take a best guess at what it might look like. The thing about building test shots for reviews is that it's not always the finished kit. Occasionally they might alter some parts. The fit might not be perfect on some of the parts, although in this case it was almost the finished article. And so you do have to do a little bit of sort of fettling to get the parts together. It did have the stand slot cut out in it, which initially I was going to use a stand off something else, and I glued it in, then changed my mind. but it was purely so I could get the thing built for the magazine. And you only have a short lead time on these. Quite often it was a matter of weeks between receiving the model and having to get it in the magazine. And so bit of a challenge. I mean, the weathering, it was all done in a bit of a rush. I do use different techniques these days, so I think the weathering on this does look a little bit cruder than I normally do. The decals themselves, I printed. Frank, or possibly one of his designers, sent me a PDF file, and I printed them off, and you can maybe see those there, and they came out quite well considering they were printed on a just a regular PC printer. But at the time, the only thing it didn't come with was there's a kind of Colonial sort of badge that goes on the side, and that wasn't ready. The artwork wasn't ready, so I basically just had to make do with what was there. So going back to the kit itself, so then obviously the kit was produced, and they'd obviously seen the reviews in the magazine, and they were quite pleased with the review that it got, because it is a very good kit. And the kit, I think the parts I was supplied with were grey, but the kit came out in white, which makes sense because a lot of it is white. And this is another one that I picked up, obviously once it was released, and you can see there that it did come with a really nice decal sheet. There's a couple of options on there, but these crests are the parts that I didn't have, and they weren't ready at the time, so I couldn't do them. It also comes with a little art card inside, which is like an original concept sketch, and I mean, it is printed. It's not like an original signature on it, by Richard C. Livingston, who was one of the concept artists, and a little bit of a history of how it was created. And when it did eventually come out as the release, I was quite pleased in that I received, just switch again, I received a credit on the instruction sheet, which is very nice, very kind of them to do that. It's one of the only times that I've had a mention by a manufacturer, but I was quite pleased by that. But even more pleasing was, just got the box back together, was the actual model on the back of the box is actually my model. But what's interesting is they Photoshop the decal in onto the side there. It's also interesting, it says includes striping decals, but in fact those are hand painted on the one on the back. So it's just an interesting bit of a story, really. Sadly the magazine folded some years ago, and with me it was never about, hey look, I'm getting free kits and I'm getting to build them before anyone else. It was more down to being able to sort of demonstrate different techniques to people. I did have some original pieces in there as well, and it's such a shame that it didn't last beyond. It did last a few years. In fact, I've got a copy here, not the copy with this Colonial one in, but there's a there's another copy. That was volume 24, and that was my Moebius on the cover. But the quality of this magazine, it's such a shame because it was so good. Very, very minimal amounts of advertising in it. There's just the occasional advert for the likes of Paragraphics, occasional kit advert, and it just went into such a huge amount of detail. They had behind the scenes things for movies and things like that. There's the build of the Moebius, and it was so good because I used to go into a lot of detail, different photos, and a complete description of what I've done, and they printed everything. It was very rare that they'd edit anything out. They might ask for an extra photo of something, but they were very happy with everything I submitted. And there's just some great stuff in. Barry Ford was another featured modeler, and as I say, it's just a shame that it disappeared. I suppose it's a victim of the internet to a certain extent, but also it was quite an expensive magazine. This was, and I don't know when the print date of this is, 2012. So we're talking 12 years ago, and it was $14.95, and it only came out 4 times a year. Having said that, they're very, very collectible now. They're quite hard to come by, and occasionally they turn up at shows, and somebody's come across some copies of them. But I've got quite a lot of them. I wouldn't say I've got a complete set, but it's almost like a library of modeling techniques. So, but it's just a shame that the opportunity's not there still. Obviously, manufacturers are still producing kits, and they send out test shots to build. But everything kind of ends up on the internet now because the opportunity to put it in magazines. I mean, possibly the likes of Fine Scale Modeler, but again, I don't know what the actual print run of that is anymore. I occasionally buy Tamiya Model magazine if there's something in it that really interests me, and I know the kind of revamped Airfix magazine does very well. But anyway, so that was it really. That's just sort of a little bit of claim to fame, and it's nice to be recognized, certainly by the manufacturer. I know the dealings I had with Frank was, they were always very good, and I know he's still out there doing bits and pieces. I think he's got an interest in doll and hobby now, which are doing some kits still, and all the Moebius stuff went to Pegasus, I think, and they've continued to release kits under the Moebius label. The latest being the Space Station 5 from 2001, which is on its way as we speak. So yeah, so if I come across any other interesting bits and pieces, I'll put them up on here, and I'll be interested in your comments. And as ever, if you want to subscribe, then feel free, and I'll see you soon.